welcome to a Wednesday night edition of the Glen Kuiper Show. Glen Kuiper Show brought to you by Krueger Real Estate, brought to you by Tilden Properties, brought to you by the new Original Joe's, brought to you by Partners Capital LLC, and Area Rug Cleaning Direct. Awesome guest tonight. In fact, we're doing a collab. That's what we call it, right, Larry? Is this a collab?
That's right. We're doing a collab stream and feeling good. And there we go. I guess.
All right.
Stream.
Larry Krueger, you know him. I TMBR. And one of the best podcasts out there. He's been killing it for a long time. The Krueger Show. You're kind of the guy we all follow now, Larry, on this podcast YouTube world.
Well, you know what? I'll say this. It's an awful lot of fun. And it's been great. So, I mean, I enjoy it. It gets bigger every month, it seems like. You know, I've had some amazing moments this year, Glenn. I mean, literally, I got recognized on the top floor of a Target at like 11 o'clock at night in Seattle by a woman and her husband. And
you've made it.
I mean, it was like, hey, she's like, and then the husband comes up to me. He's like, Mr. TikTok. And I'm
That's
like, Mr.
great.
TikTok. That's unbelievable.
Great.
But it has been a lot of fun. And I got to thank my son, Kev, who does so much work. You know, I mean, it takes a lot of work to get these channels going. And, you know, it's not always easy. So he helps a ton. He's probably the reason the thing is doing as well as it's doing.
Yeah, it certainly is. But, you know, you know the drill here. And I was thinking today, Larry, about, you know, your show, which is incredibly popular. But this is a good time for you because you do excellent work, you know, with the coverage of the Niners. And, you know, Giant season is starting. You got the NFL draft coming up. So you got Giant season starting. You got the NFL draft coming up in 5 weeks. This is sort of your two hot spots. So I would imagine this is a fun time for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, and to me, the most fun time of the year is the tournament, and then I love baseball in spring. I just think it's great. You know, everybody's got a shot, and you know, it's a great thing. And I have to go to spring training, and it was great to get down there, play some golf. So yeah, I love baseball. I love the NFL and the draft in the off season. You know, golf and the Masters coming up. I'm looking forward to that. My daughter's living out in Atlanta now, so I'm like thinking, you know, I got to maybe go out there and get out to a Masters one of those times. But yeah, no, I mean, this is the springtime, the NCAA tournament's going on. You got a killer NBA schedule starting to heat up, the playoffs. You got Celebrini and the Sharks. Yeah, it's a good time right now.
Well, it was always one of my favorite things about spring training. And listen, we all love spring training, right? Just because it's awesome. But being down there and watching the NCAA tournament, always being down there for like the first round, right? That's something that I always remember about spring training, going to the games, but yet kind of keeping an eye on the NCAA games. So yeah, this is a good time of year. This is a lot of fun for sports fans.
You know, I can remember I went down with my buddies for a golf trip for spring training.
We've all done that.
We went to a bar in downtown Scottsdale. It was like a letter, maybe W or K or something like that. I forget what it was. Anyway, we're watching Syracuse, Kansas in a big NCAA game. And look over at the next table. It's Donovan McNabb.
Really?
And a bunch of his buddies.
That's great.
And when I'm at, buddy of mine, I'm scouting for the Cardinals at the time. Buddy of mine tells Donovan McNabb, hey, my buddy didn't want to embarrass you, but he scouts for the Cardinals. Anyway, McNabb comes over, shakes my hand, introduces himself, says hi to our entire table of people. Dude, we had like 15 people at the table. He paid our bill.
No way. Seriously?
He paid our bill just because we were sitting. Now, Syracuse won the game. He was in a good mood. Syracuse. But still, I mean, he didn't know us. And it was like he had a whole table full of people and he paid their bill. And he's like, get me their check. And he paid our bill. So Donovan McNabb, very cool. And that was just one great spring training memory.
That's great. Hey, before we get into this whole Giants thing, and we got a lot to cover with this, we're going to have fun with it, but let's do a little WBC wrap up. I thought it was great. I was really, for the first time, probably, I was totally into it. I can't say that in years past I would watch, but I wasn't into it a lot. I was pretty locked into it. We know Team USA got close, they lost, we know all of it. Are you a fan of this WBC tournament?
I'm a fan of real, and what we saw there was real.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I like real. I like the Major League Baseball All-Star game when Rose went into Fosse. And of course that was before my time, but I mean, I like the baseball All-Star game when guys went at it, and guys kind of still do compared to some of the other All-Star games.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like if it feels forced, I don't like it. If it feels contrived, I don't like it. If it feels organic and real and natural, and then I love it. And it was great. I'll tell you the game that I got stuck on. It was last weekend, Japan against Venezuela in a back and forth game. Japan took the lead, then Venezuela kept the lead, then Japan got the lead, and just the intensity of the hitters. How much it clearly meant to every team. And, it's like, that's what the NBA is trying for. It's like, how do we get the guys to play hard? Manfred didn't have to worry about that. It's like, you just have guys because of nationalism and pride and what they owe to one another. And they just showed up and played huge. And I know there are a lot of people that are critical of the American team because, by comparison, our guys were kind of relatively unemotional.
Yeah.
But you know what? You got to be who you got to be. You got to be real. You got to be who you are. And if the guys in the team are kind of conservative, quiet guys, then they should be conservative, quiet guys. I don't think you'd go out there trying to do some fake dog and pony show because Team Puerto Rico or Team Venezuela or Team Dominican is playing with tremendous energy. I mean, I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. I thought it was so good. I think this time stamped it like this is here to stay. It's a 5-year, it's been, I think this is the 5th time. It takes a while to get a little momentum, figure out what it is. But we've seen Japan win. We've seen Venezuela win. We've seen Team USA win. The Dominican team was an awesome team to watch. I loved it, man. I absolutely loved it. And I thought it was kind of cool that you had guys like the teams like the Giants, I should say, where big games and you've got Logan Webb on one side and you got Buto on the other side and their teammates, and that dynamic's cool. I'm not a Manfred guy, and I think they did too many things to speed up the game, and we could take a few of them now and throw them away, like the runner on second and extras and things like that. But this one, whoever's idea it was, they deserve all the applause. It was organic. It was real. It was something baseball can – I think it's going to give this season tremendous momentum as it starts.
That's what I was thinking too. And that was my next question. Viewership was sky high. It
was great.
I mean, off the charts, right? The numbers showed it. You could just the excitement in the game showed up, and it put baseball in such a great spot to start this 2026 season. You could not be in a better spot if you're Major League Baseball. What you just saw and the excitement leading up, a week later, you're going to start the season. And then baseball has this new crop of young, really, really good young players. People are into that. So you really can't have a better jump start to this 26 season than the WBC. And for that, you're right. I think it's very, very successful.
The only thing, you said that nothing could be better. I mean, I'll tell you what could be better if the Giants were the equal of the Dodgers. And that was the norm and not the exception, because these are two proud franchises, and beyond proud franchises, these are two enormously successful and wealthy franchises that have made brilliant business decisions and have separated from a lot of the other franchises. The Giants, the Dodgers may be the ultimate have right now, but the Giants are also one of the haves. Yeah. And I just think, as somebody who grew up in the Sunset District, going to these games, I knew Bob Lurie. Bob Lurie was a friend of my dad. David Lurie, Bob's stepson, and I went to Stewart Hall together.
Absolutely.
So I used to hang out with David Lurie. And, Bob Lurie was a wealthy man. But this thing has now gotten to a point. This is the greatest. The Giant purchase from 1992 is the greatest real estate deal in the history of the city of San Francisco. And it's a deal that continues to grow, obviously, as the value of the stadium and the franchise continues to grow. It's an amazing thing. So the Giants are rich, and the Giants have been enormously successful. And I think, I'm not sure, Glenn, that the Giants story has been told well as far as in recent years. They are a successful business operation, and yet they get raked a lot because of the on-field struggles. But and I know baseball is cyclical, and the on-field thing it's a cycle. You're going to cycle in, you're going to cycle up and down, but they've positioned themselves as a franchise. When you look at revenue and Forbes and where they're estimated brilliantly, and they bought it for $100 million. It's literally worth $6 billion. They've made genius decisions, and I think they ought to kind of put their chest out a little bit and be like, hey, look, we've won championships. We've been enormously successful in business. Let's be both. Let's have it all. Let's have the brass ring.
Yeah, and that, you know what, that's great, because that's a good lead into what I want to kind of hit on here. But before that, I want to check a few comments, Larry. I like to keep my the viewers involved. 49er Red Zone, who you probably know, Larry, Kuiper and Krueger. Yes, let's go Giants. All right, we appreciate that. Michael Taylor says Krueger and Kuiper, what a combo. How about this one, Larry? They're just going to combine us and say Krueger. All right.
Well, we have, Glenn, you and I do go way back. I swear, I think about some of the special moments of my career, and what are some of the things that where I'm like, God, did you appreciate your happiest moments? Well, I can remember at the tail end of Candlestick, 98, I believe, maybe 97, 99, somewhere in there, one of those years. You and I doing a lot of those post games from Candlestick, and we'd come on after your brother and Krug and Lon, the late great Lon Simmons, who was my dad's hero. Sometimes Ted Robinson, John, Dave, obviously. I mean, just the best crew there is. And we came on from the that cramped Candlestick. And it was booth cold there in the mezzanine. Yeah, it was cold.
Nobody was there. The place was empty. It was kind of creepy.
Seagulls, yeah, seriously. But those are some good memories, because this ballpark now is a product of the Ned Colletti, Brian Sabian, Ned Colletti, Dusty Baker years in the 90s, where the Giants, the ownership group saved the team, and they were moving to St. Pete, and they saved the team. And 93 was a magical year, and they gave them tremendous momentum. The strike hit, which slowed them down, but they regained their footing in the late 90s. 97 was a big year for Sabes. 98, they one-game playoff. They lost to Traxel at Wrigley. 99, they missed out on the playoffs by 2 games, I believe. 2000, we all know they were amazing. They lost to Bobby Jones on a one-hitter in the playoffs. That was the Benny Agbayani. 2001, they lost a little bit in the regular season to the Diamondbacks. We all know how that magical, ugly season was with the whole Twin Towers thing. But then 2002, the Giants are back in the World Series. Their greatest moment, their worst moment. They went 100 the next year. So I mean, there was a lot of good memories there in the 90s, and it's good to be back with you.
Hey, we got a super chat. WBC, nice preview of Arise hitting for the Giants. Yeah, I would agree with that. And we're gonna get to this roster a little bit later on in the show, but Arise will be a big part of Larry and I's conversation. And what exactly will the Giants do with him? But I want to kind of piggyback on what you were saying about. I really think now, Larry, with Buster and all of his advisors, he's got a really sharp, strong group of people. But I think as a whole, they're really trying to build something long-term here. All the things you said are accurate. Listen, they got a ballpark built. It's very successful. The franchise is worth, billions and billions of dollars. But I think from a on the field standpoint, I get the feeling that Buster is really, really strong. And we need sustained success on the field, and there's no reason why this and I'm kind of thinking what the front office is probably thinking. There's no reason why we can't have that, right? The Giants should not go 9 years and make the postseason one time, and that's the stretch they're in. And I think, Larry, if this is what they're trying to do, and of course it is, right? We are the San Francisco Giants. We should be a good team every year and battle for a spot in the postseason. I am quite sure that's what Buster and his people are trying to put together here. Now, if you make smart baseball decisions, and I think this group will make smart baseball decisions, personnel-wise, you have money to spend. Make sure you spend it on the right people. If you do that and you build up your minor league system, and they're getting there. You know, you like watching the minor leagues. I keep an eye. They're moving in the right direction here. They're not quite there yet with this minor league system, but it is growing, and there's a lot of talent down there. If you put those two things together, Larry, like I think the Giants are trying to do, spend your money wisely, make the right personnel decisions for the most part, and have a very, very strong minor league system, you can be good for a very, very long time, and you can compete with the Dodgers. Would you agree with that?
The Dodgers have set the bar really high, and Mark Walter is, I think, almost he celebrates how high he sets the bar.
Yeah.
I think they're at this point almost kind of strutting, outbidding teams by $10 million just because you can. You know what I mean? It's a little bit, it almost feels almost like it's for effect at this point. It's like, we'll get more headlines if we make it, if we don't just beat their bid by 2 million, we'll beat it by 10. Remind everybody that we are so far ahead. But I mean, yeah, I think it's about making good decisions. It's really about making good decisions. I'll say one thing. And the reason I went to spring training, outside of I love to play golf and I wanted to bring my guys down there, and it's beautiful in March, and my wife said, all right, it's okay. But outside of that is I wanted to put my eyes on it. And, I've been around enough to know what it's supposed to look like. And also I've been around long enough to know that Tony Vitello is a totally new entity and had to be kind of, I had to see that for myself and kind of feel it. And I will say this, and I haven't really shared this on CanBR yet since I got back from spring training, but there is even though Bruce Bochy was, shucks, get a beer, it's like the best managers have an intensity around them, and the best organizations have an intensity. Sabes had an intensity. Coletti had an intensity. I mean, you have to have that day-to-day intensity. And between Tony and Buster, and I really got the sense of it sitting on the rail, kind of eavesdropping a little bit on Kirk Casale. There's a lot of Kirk Casale's very passionate about baseball. He's got Buster's ear.
Super sharp guy. Yep.
Super sharp guy, super motivated guy, super can-do achiever. If it's not right, let's make it right. And then you got the wisdom of Bobby Evans there, who's seen a lot of things in time and does have quite a bit of wisdom. There's an intensity and the parts fit together. And then of course Manassian as well, and he's a big part of that. And there's others, the Kyle Haynes and there's a group, but there's an intensity. And then I think there's also a really good vibe with the older players. I saw Affelt when I was there. I saw Aurelia when I was there. And, just to have that door opened again and that feels like you're embracing the history, and that makes everybody more comfortable and more feeling like you have more momentum. So I think it's just a matter of time. I really do. I'm impressed by Tony. All the players really like him. We don't know how he's gonna manage, what he's gonna do. He's gonna have to tone down all the Auburn and Vanderbilt references, or the Devers of the world are eventually gonna bite his head off. But he gets it. Tony's really smart, and he's really observant. And I think he's gonna, I think he's gonna do great from the first pitch to the last pitch. And then I think he's going to learn the rhythm of the last pitch to the first pitch of the next game. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he wants it, and you've got great leadership and great stewardship above. There's nothing guaranteed, and it's going to be very difficult. But I think I like the Giants, and I like the A's a little bit in the American League. I like the NorCal teams to kind of surprise and get in as wild cards this year.
All right. Hey, all right. What do you think of this? I'm going to comment here, Larry, and tell you what you think. Giants are the new A's as far as cheapskates, but worse, they are more wealthy than the A's ever were.
Well, first of all, that's not true.
I'm not sure.
John Fisher is probably the wealthiest owner in American pro sports. I mean, I know, we know that in great detail. He's a multi-billionaire. But that's besides the point. Everybody's very, very well off, and there's no reason. But the Giants are not the A's. The Giants are trying to figure out exactly the right strategy to take on, in their division, the biggest force in the game right now. And they've got to figure out how to do it. And you could get emotional about it and sign a bunch of major league free agents. And is that sustainable? I mean, you just heard what Glenn said. They're trying to build something that's sustainable. So you have to make good decisions at the major league level, good stewardship, and maximize at the major league level, and at the same time make good decisions at the minor league level. My only concern from watching the team is I think they're short on the mound almost for sure. And I think they're going to go as far. I think they're going to play well, and I think they're going to hang as long as the pitching depth holds out. But I'm very concerned about the pitching depth, both in the pen and in the rotation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So my last comment on it, Larry, is I think we're both on the same page here, but I just feel like the reason I'm encouraged by what the front office is all about is you should get to know these people. There's too many smart people involved that don't have egos that are going to get in the way.
Right.
Smart people that listen and take other people's thoughts and are willing to engage and talk about stuff and not let their ego get in the way. Those people are usually successful. And Buster has, listen, if people think we're both full of BS, that's fine. I don't care. I know the people that he has surrounded himself with, and they are very smart baseball people with not a lot of ego. Doesn't mean they don't have ego, but it's not the kind of ego that's going to get in the way. And Larry, we've seen decision makers in sports, you've seen it for a long, long time, who do allow their ego to get in the way, and that's never good.
The vibe I got around Buster is just that, he's very straightforward and simple. He's what you see is what you get. He's got tons and tons of baseball wisdom. He's got tons and tons of baseball credibility. I think the fan base has so much. He's built up such goodwill. There's such a reservoir of goodwill there that the fan base is going to give him the time that he needs. Now, I was listening to Adam Copeland and driving back home this afternoon. He's like, I'm not giving them a break if they don't make the playoffs. They got to make the playoffs. and it's a high standard. It's a good goal for sure. You got to see how it plays out, but there is a little bit of like, hey, look, you're a very wealthy team. You've got a lot of wealthy owners, and the fans have done their part. Do your part to put the best team out there and break this kind of run here. What has it been? 3 years, 4 years in a row of 500 ball. I mean, it's just at this point, I think people would like to see them either roll the dice, take a few chances. I like the Devers move, but I think just like being, 85 wins, I don't think is going to satisfy the fans. I think, they've been out of the playoffs for so long. I think it's going to take closer to 90 and a playoff berth. I kind of agree with him. I think it comes across kind of like almost like petulant child, like to be like, I want this or I'm going to be mad. But the Giants are wealthy. It's not cheap entertainment. The fans do have expectations. It's big market reality. And, I think I'm getting the sense that Copeland to some degree speaks for a big part of the fan base that wants to go to October anyway, even if it means one and done, even if you get toasted once you get there. I think they want to taste that.
Well, you look back, Larry, last year, the first wild card team was the Cubs, 92 wins. The second wild card team was the Padres, 90 wins. The third wild card team, the Cincinnati Reds, 83 wins. So you start thinking about what number do the Giants have to get to? And we do this at the beginning of every year, right? It's just kind of a fun thing you do. But in 2024, Padres 93 wins, Braves 89, Mets 89. Those were the 3 wild cards. So you start realizing you probably need to get to 90 to
guarantee it,
to feel really good about having a shot at one of the wild card spots. Doesn't mean you're not going to, try to track down the Dodgers, but we get that situation. But if listen, if you can get in, as we say it all the time, anything can happen. We've seen wild card teams make the World Series a couple times in the last 4 years. So to me, set a number that you think is going to get you to the wild card, and play good baseball with enough talent, and see if you got a shot.
What's the roster going to look like? I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I talked to Susak, and I think the plan is for him to be the number 2 catcher. But I got to be honest, I really like the bat of Jesus Rodriguez, and I would really like to see Rodriguez's bat at the big league level. I just think, I mean, he's so confident as a hitter to hear him talk about it, and then you can see why. I mean, he really swings it well. I mean, he's not a tall guy, but he's got a lot of thunder. I kind of want to see them go with Rodriguez. I don't like the idea. I've heard Kerry Crowley and a couple people suggest trading Casey Schmidt. I think the strength of this team this year is going to be that their bench guys are as good as their starters, and the Cosses of the world and the Schmidts of the world, and maybe Rodriguez and maybe your outfield backups can all play without you really having any kind of step down in any way. I think there's a lot of good bench players here. So I want to keep Casey Schmidt, but I see the catching decision as a big decision. I see the 5th outfielder. I want to see Matos on this team. I think that 4th and 5th outfielder spot's going to be interesting to watch. And then, of course, the ultimate decision: do you break north with Eldridge or not? And it sounds like not, right? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about this last night, Larry, and there are trickle down effects on Eldridge if he makes it, if he doesn't make it. I said I don't think he's going to break with the big league team. I think they're going to send him to AAA. Let him just polish. Let him just keep working. He's 21 years old. He's very young. Doesn't mean he couldn't be in a big league lineup, but I think the right thing to do for Eldridge, in my opinion, is to start him in AAA. And I think that's what they're going to do. I don't know that for a fact. But you think about this thing, Larry, you got 26 spots, right? You got 13 pitchers, and you know who your 8 position players are going to be, right? I think we know. Well, heck, that's 21 right there, right? You got 8 relievers, 5 starters. There's your 13 pitchers. You got your 8 players. That doesn't include the DH. So now you only have 5 extra spots. One of them's the DH spot, and one of them's your backup catcher. Well, now you're down to 3 spots, right? So if Koss and Schmidt make it,
you only have 4 outfielders.
Yeah, exactly. Unless it's, listen, you can DH anybody from this group, right? But my point is there's a lot of pretty good players fighting for really what's probably 1 or 2 spots if Eldridge doesn't make it. I find the decision fascinating, and you brought up Rodriguez. I talked about him last night. I know he opened a lot of eyes. There's no question. People, called the coaching staff. None of them have really seen him until spring training, and he can really hit, Larry. I know you liked what you saw. I loved what I saw. He can hit, and I don't know. I said maybe this is an outside roster spot for this guy, but they sent him back down to the minor leagues this morning. Doesn't mean he won't be back at some point soon in the season, but the point is he won't be on the opening day roster. So, how
about a couple of these other guys? I mean, I saw Encarnacion, didn't hustle on one play. I'm not a gigantic Encarnacion fan, but he, some people really like that bat. Yeah, you can see why, but I don't know. There's not enough there. I'm not a huge fan. And then Drew Gilbert, at the end of last year, I thought, oh man, this could be a key guy for them, but he's had some injuries this spring. Do you think he starts on the injured list, or?
Well, maybe. I think he's starting to play a little bit now, but I think he's destined for AAA. And listen, I'm not sure. He showed that he's a big league defender, but he hasn't showed yet that he's a big league hitter. And another guy that probably needs a little more time in the minor leagues. We know the Matos thing out of options. We know the Encarnacion thing out of options. I think Encarnacion's got a pretty decent chance to make the team. I do. Because you really do want to try to keep as many assets as you can, right? The Matos thing is I don't know what's going to happen there. Grant McCray.
I thought Grant McCray looked pretty good this spring.
He looks good. And you know what, Lacey? There's another guy, too, that has opened a lot of eyes, and that's Jared Oliva, the center fielder, because he can play all three outfield positions. He can play center field, very good defensively, and he does something that could help you at the big league level. He can steal bases. He's a very, very legitimate base stealer. Now, is that enough to give him a roster spot? I don't know, but I do know, like Rodriguez, Larry, he has opened some eyes, and I think that front office is looking like, hey, he does some things that could help you on the 26-man roster. So
what about Barracuda? Where's he in this mix? Did he get sent out today?
No, I think did you see what he did today? He hit a ball over the batter's eye.
He's got major power.
Yeah. But I think he's a legitimate prospect. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I don't think he's going to make the team, but that's a nice guy. Start him in Double-A, maybe with Bo Davidson. And again, you're building up this organizational depth with prospects. He's looked terrific. Yeah. He's probably been the best hitter in camp. And I know the coaches were like, wow, this kid can hit, man. He's going to go down. He can play some first base, but keep an eye on him in the minor leagues. You're a step away, right? Or you're a couple steps away if you start strong in Double-A. So their organizational depth is much, much better, Larry, and I think that's a big deal.
Will they be looking at all for a first baseman? If Eldridge, if they decide Eldridge is, not only is he not going to be up right now, he might be more of a, September call-up type thing, or even a 2027 entity. Would they look around for a first baseman to pair with, or would they just, throw a Rise over there? I mean,
I don't think that there would be a reason. Let's say Eldridge does go down. I don't know that there would be a reason to go get another guy, because we've seen Schmidt play there. This could be a way to get Schmidt's bat in the lineup if you want to play him at first once in a while and DH Devers. I think Encarnacion's got a pretty good chance to make the team. He could play first. Arise could. He's playing first base in the WBC. So I don't know that would necessarily be a need, Larry, to go get a first baseman. Because I think there's enough guys on the roster that can. And Schmidt's a pretty good defensive first baseman. He could play over there, and I think they'd be comfortable with that if Devers had to miss time for whatever reason that may be.
Yeah, I talked to Schmidt. I think Schmidt could have a really nice year. I know it's kind of weird because there's no spot for him technically, but he'll play a lot. And he hits, and he's getting better. I think every year he becomes a little bit better. One thing I saw in the WBC that I hope Tony also noticed was that Luis Arise looked good in the middle of the lineup and looked good kind of, towards the back end of the middle of the lineup. And I thought of him as a top of the lineup, bottom of the lineup guy, like probably most people did, right? But man, there's just, he's such a line drive hitter. He's such a contact guy. He's such a good hitter that, that will be intriguing at times, because you get the feeling that if you put him in some RBI type spots, he could have a big RBI week or month for sure, because he makes a lot of contact.
Yeah, and you know what? You kind of read my mind, Larry, because that was sort of the next thing I wanted to get your thoughts on was this lineup. And you know what? There's no right or wrong, right, in a lineup. They change all the time, but it is a very interesting question with this Giants team, because my thing has always been, Larry, one, where do you bat Arise? Okay, like you just said. But also, where do you hit Jung-Hoo Lee? And where do you hit Elliot Ramos? Those three guys, to me, are kind of the wild cards in where are you going to hit them? But starting with Arise, like you said, he didn't lead off a lot last year. He hit second a lot because the Padres had Fernando Tatis leading it off. And, we know what teams do now with leadoff hitters. Most of them hit the ball in the ballpark, right?
Right.
So, I would not hit Arise leadoff. You could go anywhere in my mind from second to fifth, really. Put him in there somewhere to break up the guys who strike out. He's a very good hitter with runners in scoring position. His career average is 350. So you don't worry so much about the 3-run homer with him, but you worry about keeping the line moving if you have a big inning. So I don't know. What do you think, Larry?
I don't know. First of all,
are we taking him out of the leadoff spot?
It's like anything that we say on any given day. I really do kind of believe. If you have the 27 Yankees and you want to go set lineup, go set lineup. But if you don't have that, and I almost feel like, you almost need part of your job as a manager is to juggle the lineup to hunt for incremental. How do we get an advantage today? So sometimes people look at that as like instability, but I don't necessarily think that that's the case as much of them. Maybe in 1978, if you juggled your lineup as much as managers in 2026 juggle their lineup, there'd be some bitching and moaning from the players, right? I could see that back then. But now there's lots of different mindsets and theories. Sometimes the theory, the old Dodger way, like when I was a little kid, they would just take whoever their fastest guy was, and they would just make him their leadoff hitter. Rudy Law is the leadoff hitter. Whoever, Steve Sachs, whoever it is, whoever the fastest guy was
Brett
the leadoff
Butler,
hitter.
right? Brett Butler is the leadoff.
A lot of teams went with the fastest guy. And then somewhere in the when Bean and DePodesta got together in the Moneyball thing, the whole thing started going to no. Put your highest on base percentage guy. And then you start to see people start playing games with the 9-hole, especially with the advent of the DH in the National League. Now it's like, well, I want these guys hitting in sequence. So they're 1-2, they're 9-1. So there's lots of different ways to look at it. Then we've also seen just put your best guy, like when I coached my kid in like juniors, they were all 13 years old. I just made sure whoever the best hitter on the team was hit first. So he got as many at-bats as possible. Sure. And I see that sometimes with like Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber is a leadoff hitter, but he has hit leadoff because he's got a great zone. He's in a way, he's a little bit like Ricky from that standpoint. He's got a tight zone. He's got tons of power. You put it in his zone, he'll put it out of the park. He'll draw the walk. So I don't know. It's really tough. I would say I like the idea of Bader hitting and then Arise. I think that would be good. Now, is that good 9-1 maybe with Bader in the 9-hole? Maybe. I also kind of think that there were times where I felt like the best at-bats that I saw out of Ramos were in the leadoff spot.
I agree with that.
I kind of like Ramos in the leadoff spot. He has got the power. I like his at-bats when he's in the leadoff spot.
Yeah, Ramos kind of jumped out at me like maybe that's if I was making out an opening day lineup, and like you said, it's going to probably change the second night. Who knows? But the Ramos, he was fine, right? And then the leadoff spot. Listen, he's not a base stealer, all that. But listen, the big hitters now in the National League, you just look around, who's leading off. And I wrote this down. Tatis leads off for San Diego. Ohtani leads off for the Dodgers, right? Trey Turner and Schwarber lead off for the Phillies. Lindor leads off for the Mets. Acuna leads off for the Braves. The Cubs got Happ and Armstrong. These guys, they lead off. Jackson Chourio leads off for the Brewers. None of these guys are just slap guys that are speed. They all hit the ball at the ballpark. So to me, Ramos is hits the ball. It's got good power, gap power. I would think about Ramos first and Arise second.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
There's, to me, it's also, it's literally, I mean, I want to see Tony ride the hot hand. Bader gets hot, lead him off. I hate to say it because he strikes out, but Willie Adames gets really hot. Lead him off. I mean, for a couple days. I'm not saying, I'll say a guy who's a damn good hitter, who I'm new respect for after watching the Cactus, is this Christian Koss. That guy hits line drives, man, everywhere. He is a line drive hitter, and he's kind of one of those hot and cold guys. You get Christian Koss, where he's coming off a couple games where he's had 3 hits or something. He's going up against a pitcher he's got some good numbers against. I'd lead him off. I mean, he's got a nice stroke. He knows what he's doing. I think Tony's got some great versatility options in the lineup this year. I really do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I just find it fascinating. And really, ultimately, you're going to see all kinds of different lineups. But the thought of where to hit these guys, like Jung-Hoo Lee, he had some success in the 3rd spot last year, remember? And then he let off. And, so there's a lot of different ways you can go here. Some people don't like Chapman in the cleanup spot. I think Chapman, to me, I saw him his whole career. I think he's better as a 5th or 6th place hitter. I think that fits him best. Devers likes to hit second. He told Bob Melvin that last year. Doesn't mean that that's where he has to hit, but he likes hitting there. Where's Adames? He hit second a lot last year, 3rd or 4th. So there's so many different ways you could go with this. And quite frankly, I find it to be kind of a fun conversation because there's not necessarily a right or a wrong.
No, I mean, and I think if he does it the way I'd like to see him do it, there's going to be 6 or 7 different guys who get an opportunity at it over the course of the year. If you have Ricky Henderson, if you have Vince Coleman, if you have that just prototypical leadoff hitter, then lead him off every day and consider yourself lucky, But if you don't, it's almost it's a creativity thing, and part of managing, I guess, is just riding the hot hand. I feel I'll say this, I feel pretty good about their offense. I feel pretty good about the defense. I'm a little nervous that the only additions they made in the rotation, besides the guys they had, were Malley and Rouse and Hauser. I call him Rouser. There's a guy in the NFL draft called Adrian Hauser. But Hauser looks so damn good in that game against the Giants last year for the White Sox. I saw him in spring. He's got a power arm and a power arsenal. If you could get him a few runs early in the game, I would not be surprised if he had a very impressive record because he's got stuff. He's got a legit arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not. I'm okay with the rotation. I am, and there's some depth with Wisenhunt and Seymour and Tidwell down in the minor leagues. You may have to go get those guys at some point, just because how many starters you need. The Birdsong thing's going to hurt, but listen, there's no question that the concern is with the bullpen. I think everybody knows that. It's evident. There's a lot of candidates, but you don't know who is going to make the team, and you don't know what role people are going to have. So it's really kind of a twofold thing. So I think you sort of hope that this group, even though it's thrown together a little bit, can find some success. Because Larry, when you get to the middle of the season and you get a little closer to the trade deadline, the one area that you can get is a reliever. If you want a starter, you're going to have to pay a lot. If you want a middle of the order hitter, you're going to have to pay a lot in a trade. You can find relievers. You can get quality relievers at the trade deadline. You just, and you get the Foley guy back, who's been a closer with the Tigers. He's going to be out till the middle of the year. But you just hope that this group that's going to get kind of thrown together in the bullpen can figure it out, have some success, and maybe hold the fort till the time comes where maybe you can go get a guy.
Well, so you know what? I look at this as just the organizational challenge, right? Because it's gonna require all hands on deck. That means that whoever's looking at the minor leagues, you better have a keen sense of who's out there at all times. And because as you said, I mean, you're going to, you have to piecemeal it to some degree, but really what you're going to have to do is you're just going to have to, what I've noticed through time is like some teams will just discover relievers. Like the way like relievers kind of come out of nowhere and oftentimes return to nowhere. And it's like, out of nowhere, guy develops a pitch, or all of a sudden he's got more juice in his arm. I mean, baseball's a very odd sport. I mean, Wisenhut's throwing high 90s this year. Now, the command wasn't there, but I mean, high 90s. I mean, the last time I saw him, he was throwing 91, 92. Now he's throwing 97, 98. So guys get off-season, different training, different this, different that. And you have to they're going to have to discover some relievers. Maybe somebody off the waiver wire. Maybe there's somebody in the system. Maybe there's somebody in the minor leagues, even at a lower level, that might be a little bit more advanced or a little older for his age, figures how to pitch, and is, the way it works. All of a sudden you look up and there'll be some guy in your organization that hasn't given up a hit in like 6 weeks. And you're like, I never, that guy, well, we didn't factor that guy in. Well, yeah, but he's at AA and he figured it out and he got married and he quit this and he tried that. And, guys have breakthroughs. You're going to have to find that guy, accelerate him through the farm system and promote him to the big leagues. It's been done before. It has been done before. I mean, I can remember as an older Giants fan when John Burkett came to the majors, he was not part of the opening day team, and they promoted him like a week or 10 days after the season started. And, he did what John Burkett always does. He just battled for 6 innings and gave you quality start after quality start. And pretty soon you looked up and he was a veteran.
Yeah. And you see it every year. I mean, every team, there's always a surprise guy. I mean, you're right. And it does happen. And listen, that's, maybe that's what the Giants need this year, but we will keep a close eye on the bullpen. That's just the way it is.
They got guys. I mean, I was talking to JT Brubaker.
Yeah, there's
Brubaker's had a good camp. I talked to Bednar. Bednar's, solidified himself as a reliever now. He's not that far away. He got sent out, but he's going to pitch in the big leagues as a bullpen arm. So, this thing's got to come together still, but it's not like they have zero candidates. There are candidates. It's just a matter of, can they coach them up? Can couple of these guys find some rhythm? As I said, they're going to have to kind of invent some guys, but it's possible, and it's done every year.
All right. So, Larry, let's wrap this up and let you take the rest of the night off. But what do you think when this whole thing wraps up on October 1st or whatever the date may be? What do you think is going to happen with this team?
You're looking for an end of the year
I'm
record?
Looking for –
I think this
that's
team –
not fair. I don't like to dump that on you, but what kind of team do you think this is going to be?
I think this is going to be a team that gets off to a good start and plays well early, and people are really encouraged because you've got a nice product to watch. You got some hitters. You've got some pieces to the puzzle that are clearly in place. And then I think what's going to happen is we get closer to May and June, that depth is going to erode. You're going to have some non-major league relievers, some non-major league starters. I mean, if you could guarantee me that you could put out a quality major league starter for 162, then it's just a matter of, can you find – I like the offense here. I like the defense, and I like the mix of youth. Yeah. I just think they are – can they find 2 nasty relievers? Do they have assets in the minor leagues that they could trade for 2 nasty relievers? I mean, heck, Mason Miller is nasty. The A's got him because the Padres were willing to trade that Leo DeVries, who's just a freak. And I saw him in spring training in the Giants-A's game out at the A's stadium, and DeVries is going to be a really nice big leaguer, and that was probably a good trade for the A's. But they gave up Mason Miller. So, I mean, do the Giants have a young – now, they don't have a DeVries necessarily, but do they have a young arm or 2 or a young prospect that's low enough down in the system that they feel like they could part with and they could get not necessarily Mason Miller, but somebody who could be really really nasty in that pen. I thought that the guy in the World Baseball Classic, Palencia, who throws for the Cubs.
Yeah.
That guy's nasty. Oh my God. I mean, is there a reliever somewhere out there that you could trade for that's got some, that could give you some juice? So I do think there's enough organizational prospect wealth and depth here where Buster and Manassian, I think, will be able to find a match at some point, and I'm very encouraged. So I think the Giants are going to win. I'll say 89 games. 89 games for the Giants, and I'm encouraged. I think they'll get off to a hot start, and then they're going to have to lean on their management to kind of fill in some of the blanks because they're going to have some depth issues on the mound.
Yeah, listen, if they win 89 games, they'll be in the postseason, and you know what? Then you play well at the right time and you have some fun. We've seen teams do it before. We've seen the Giants do it before. So, I think
I'd love to see Tony. I'd love to see Tony get off to a great start and kind of just be allowed to be Tony because he got off to a hot start and he had his own kind of success bubble. You know what I mean? I don't want to. I don't want to see him forced into some uncomfortable moments and tested. And because we know, I mean, you've been around the big leagues long enough. You're staring at your stats if you're a hitter. You're staring at the standings every day.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is a freaking mental grind like almost no other sport. It's like golf in that regard. And that's what I'm eager to see how Tony manages, how aggressive he is. They play less games in college. Does that mean he's more aggressive? I'm not really sure. We don't know what to expect, but I do like Tony. And I got the sense from talking to the players that they really do kind of have an appreciation for where he's coming from. And that, I think, is very important.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating watch. I think the team's going to be fascinating to watch. I think they're going to be pretty good. The Vitello thing's just going to be day to day, and he's going to learn something every day. And, I think the Giants are hoping that he's the long-term answer as part of this thing that we talked about earlier in the show, Larry, about turning this organization into a consistent winning organization and everybody being together and everybody pulling for the same thing. And I think he's a big part of that. So it's going to be fun to watch.
They're not far away. And, it's really cool that it's starting up because, baseball, unlike football, unlike basketball, unlike hockey, it's truly daily. And I'll say this. I mean, I don't try to encourage people to gamble. I'm not hey, you should gamble. But I think if you want to know what it's like, and I talked to Ned Coletti about this one time, if you really want to know what it's like to be a baseball player or to be a bench coach on a baseball team or assistant GM or anybody in the fire competing, just put whatever you want, $20, $50, whatever it is, on some team to either go over the total or under. I like going over because then you're rooting for wins. You're not rooting for losses. But root for and then ride that roller coaster. And it's a great way to feel what the players feel, what the broadcasters feel, what everybody feels. Because you won, you're up. You lost, you're down. You lost 5 in a row, you're really down. You won 5 in a row. This bet's going to win for fun. This bet doesn't have a chance of being successful. I mean, you are going to ride that roller coaster, and it really does give you that feeling of being in the game, and that's what these guys go through. So, I'm rooting for a great year for Tony.
All right, so what you're saying there is I should take over 88.
Is it 88? No, it can't be over.
No, I don't know.
I think my guess is the Giants number is 79.
Really?
79 or 80, maybe 81. I don't know. I could look it up, but I would say it's right there at 500. And I like them over. I like them comfortably over.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, Larry, thanks for joining me, and thanks for allowing our shows to come together. I know you have a huge audience, and I appreciate some of your viewers watching on my channel and vice versa. But I appreciate you going in with me on this. You're fun to listen to. Your podcast is one of the best, The Krueger Show. So make sure you check that out. But I appreciate you stopping by, Larry. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once the season gets started.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Really glad to see you back, man. Huge fan of what you do. You're first class all the way. And I think you're going to do great stuff for the Giants, and Giants fans are going to be treated to a lot of great broadcasts, man. So I'm really glad to see you're back doing your thing.
All right. That means a lot. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by.
Absolutely.
All right. Larry Krueger, again, his show, the podcast, The Krueg Show. You can see it on his YouTube channel, and you can also hear him on KNBR. Larry Krueger. Thanks, Larry. Appreciate it. And that's going to do it for tonight's show. Certainly hope you enjoyed it. A lot of good Giants talk. The Glen Kuiper Show is brought to you by Krueger Real Estate, Tilden Properties, Partners Capital LLC, Area Rug Cleaning Direct, and the new Original Joe's in Walnut Creek. I know Larry's been there because he lives over there, and he probably loves the food. Who doesn't love the food? So we appreciate the sponsors. I appreciate Larry. I'm Glen Kuiper. Thanks for joining me on the show. Check out my show and check out the Krueg Show, and we will see you down the road. Have a good one, everybody.